I would have dearly loved an explanation because I am an intelligent person. There's no need to tiptoe around me.
The communication needs to be pitched at the right level for your client based on their education, their gender, their cultural background. I think sometimes we forget how much jargon slips into our own conversation and language, and you need to be really mindful.
If we're careful with the timing and how we talk about and introduce the tools and make it very clear how they're used, who would have access to it, and how it can be very helpful for us as clinicians to understand their perspective.
It's a wonderful opportunity to engage them to begin with, to get a rapport going, to send a message to young people that we're interested in what they have to say.
Oh, the client is just not going to be up to it, and it's going to be just too hard for them. But I think we might be, cutting short our clients. It's not quite the way it is. They're kind of quite happy to give that feedback.
I think they should explain what a Hunoscar actually is and why they're putting what they're putting down on there and who sees it, where it goes.
You can give me any form and it's how you give it to me and how you explain what it's about makes a difference.
Well, it would be good for the clinician to feed the information back to the consumer, obviously, but also to the carer, to make sure that the information that they're gaining is going somewhere. It's not just getting loaded into a system somewhere and not filtering through where it needs to go.
I can do measures, I can do a rating, but that's only part of the picture. I want to get your side of the story to make it a fuller picture so that we know we're both working together on similar goals.
We could use the outcome measures to really enhance that development of the therapeutic relationship, that the information that we've collected, we can talk to the consumer about it, we can explain why we've rated things in a certain way, how and why it might differ to what they're talking about from their perspective. I think that really helps us to demonstrate that honesty and communication that we want to see in the relationship.
From my personal experience, I can say it takes some practice to actually incorporate it in a meaningful way into your clinical practice, so it flows okay.
So if you introduce it earlier on, later when you do with reviews with them, they're much more happy to complete it and understand the whole process, and you can give them feedback and discuss, their progress.
They can be useful in distilling a lot of information, a very complex picture, into some fairly concrete or discrete domains or issues.
And it gives you a bit more of a focus on how to break down sometimes what looks like a big problem into separate little components and working on each of those particular areas so that you can move forward.
They are not the be-all and end-all of an assessment process, but they help to identify certain issues in a number of areas.
We use it to inform our clinical assessment. You certainly don't base your clinical assessment on the outcomes. And I know some clinicians have been very concerned when outcomes first came out that that's what they would be used for. They're complementary. They're complementary to your face-to-face clinical biopsychosocial assessment that you would do with every client.
What am I doing for this person? Am I making a difference? The measures help me to work out, am I making a difference?
And sometimes having something that's nice and tangible, like a consumer self-report measure, brings you back to reality, and you can be as effective with the consumer to see how they're travelling over time. You can look back and go, well, okay, this is what we were doing and it was actually effective.
We can use them to help identify goals, to review the work that we've made towards those goals, to consider what's worked and what hasn't.
I tell my clients first thing that sometimes I'll be telling them things that they don't want to hear. Sometimes that means raising things that they might not feel comfortable hearing, and I hope that will be the other way around as well.
If there's any differences there, we'll go through it and say, look, this is what I thought was happening, but apparently, you're feeling a little bit different. But yeah, it's something, use the information I've been given, work with the client.
We can work with this. Or maybe, hey, we're disagreeing about this part, but here's your strengths over here and we both agree on those. How do we use those to help build you the life that you deserve?